while you are in the session, you need to have a way to listen to yourself. Okay, that is called internal conversation. You need to have some kind of an internal conversation going on in your mind. Okay, so listening to oneself is also very important in a counseling situation. That's how you are actually processing what is going on in the session. Okay, so that's why listening to oneself is also one important aspect. Okay, so to be an effective helper, you need to not only listen to the client but also to yourself. Okay, and so this is like a second channel. It's already going on. It's continuously going on in your mind, where you listen to the way, like how these clients are expressing yourself, their non-verbal behavior, like you how you are saying yourself to the client, how is your non-verbal behavior, how you are feeling. So those things you need to constantly observe at the same time as you are focusing on the client. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you are preoccupied. Okay, you are self preoccupied with what is happening with you, but you are listening to yourself on a second channel, which will help you identify like what you want to do to help the client further, or you will also understand what might be coming in the way, uh, so that it's coming in the way of your being with the client fully in a given situation. Okay, so it's basically a kind of self consciousness, self awareness, but it is a positive form of self awareness. Okay, uh, so there is a research by, I mentioned a research there, like research by Forth and Williams, which says helpers, that is counselors, internal conversations, they are actually helpful. They don't hinder their interactions with the clients. That's what the finding is. So having it, like you are actively processing, at the same time you are actively listening to the client. Okay, but the more focus is on listening to the client, but at the back of your mind some processing should go on. How can I help this client? Okay, so like for example, in the next slide I'm presenting a few of the things that a helper or a counselor, few of the statements are the internal dialogue of a helper. Okay, so a helper might tell oneself that I'm feeling bothered by client's behavior. I should find a way to reset this conversation. This client's behavior is bothering me, but I should find a way to reset this conversation. So this is something that the helper or counselor is saying to himself at the back of his mind, but he's not saying it aloud to the client. So this conversation would help the helper to reset the conversation. And probably at times, as a counselor, I might recognize and I might tell myself at the back of my mind that my thoughts have been wandering. I need to refocus on what the client is saying. Okay. Or I might tell myself after listening to client stories, this client he has faced a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges in her life, but her self pity is actually hindering her progress. Okay, while I would like to be empathetic, I must also address her self pity cautiously, otherwise, she would get stuck wherever she is. So that is what I'm telling myself, I'm preparing myself. But this is not mean, this doesn't mean that I'm telling it aloud to the client. Okay. So these are the certain forms of conversation as a helper, if you can have with yourself at the same time when you are processing what the client is saying, listening to the client, it is helpful. Okay, that's how even experienced therapists would process. Like if you get a chance to listen to, like American American Psychological Association, they have produced videos of different forms of therapies, like with actual client, that experienced therapist is conducting the session, and you will see what they are talking, and they have different levels. Again, first they will show you actual session that is happening between the client and the therapist. sorry, between the therapist and the client, then they will mute what is going on, and the therapist will tell you what he was thinking at any moment in the therapy process. Okay, okay, when I was saying this, I was thinking this, he will say like that. Okay, when I was saying these statements to the client, when the client is saying these things to me, I was thinking this. So they will also talk about their thinking process in the therapy. Okay, so that is basically the internal conversation that was going on in the therapist's mind. Okay, and it would be really helpful if you can get a chance to see American Psychological Association videos. They are available in their website. Okay, yeah. So next thing is, there are different, uh, like there is a negative aspect of listening also, in the sense, uh, we engage in some form of listening which is not helpful. Okay, now I'm going to present, see, all these things I'm presenting so that if we are aware, we are less likely to engage in those behaviors. Okay, there is an equation. I don't see any of you, any of your videos.
Sir, it is locked, sir, by host.
No, no, no. They are opening their videos, right?
No, I could not open. When I'm trying to open it, is you cannot start your video because host,
Okay.
because the host has disabled it.
So I'm just asking you to start video. Yeah, you can start,
Ah,
right?
now it is open.
Okay, okay. So see, for example, you're somebody who's trained in counseling and psychology. Let's say in India, you come from a, let's say, very conservative background. Okay, conservative views about society, relationships, marriage. Okay, and you happen to see a teenager who is coming from, uh, let's say, different country, who is studying here. Okay, so you have a particular lens, right? You have a particular understanding of certain things. Okay, and when the client is coming from a different culture, what the client is saying might offend us. Okay, because every one of us have our own lenses through which we tend to understand experiences. Okay, what might seem correct for somebody, it might not seem correct for other person, because each person's lenses are different and each cultural lenses are different. Okay, so those lenses actually probably distort the way we listen. We listen through the filtered lenses. Okay, if you are somebody who lived and you were raised in a village setup, and you were trained there, and you got exposure to those things, and you come here and talk to a teenager who is working in a, or who's studying in an international school. Okay, who was never exposed to that kind of a culture, and there is a possibility that you would see that everything that the teenager is doing wrong. So you might fail in actually understanding the client's point of view, client's frame of reference. So that is called listening with filters, filtered listening. There is a filter. That's why, because of the filter, you are not able to see the real picture. Okay. So there is this shadow side of listening. Okay. So one is filtered listening. Okay. Then there is evaluative listening. Okay. Evaluative listening is, like, for example, uh, uh, in one of our training sessions, like, we were shown some videos. Okay, counselor and client interaction. Okay, the client was telling to that counselor, um, so basically, she actually went through some trauma, some, like, somebody sexually abused her, raped her, and she came from a different country, and she was in another country, and she went through all this, and nobody supported her. And she's talking to this counselor that well, the rape and the investigations are not dead. Okay, at least they are not in my mind. Okay? They are not as clear as they used to be in my mind, but they're still there. She's telling that. Okay, and this counselor immediately jumps and says, that is the problem, isn't it? Why don't you do yourself a favor and forget about it? Get on with life. What is the problem here?
Giving
So
a
it,
suggestion.
yeah, giving an advice, but at the same time there is an underlying assumption that what you're doing is wrong.
And
You're
there's no
wrong.
empathy.
Yeah, there
Empathy
is no
is lacking.
yes, there is no empathy. So basically, this is called evaluative listening. You're evaluating whether you're good or bad, you're right or wrong. Okay. So evaluative listening gives ways to, like, it results in advice giving. So sometimes it might be ultimately you might want her to move past that. Okay, it might be a sound advice as well. But the point here is, like, as a counselor, when you listen when you listen like this, you are basically judging the person. You are actually responding evaluatively. So first thing is, clients should be understood first. Okay. Then, if necessary, challenged or helped to challenge themselves. Okay. So first and primary thing is understanding. Once they feel understood, probably they are ready to have a different perspective. Unless they are not understood, they will not be able to move past that. Okay. Then there is something called stereotype based listening. Okay. So like we use terms like he's depressed. Okay. He is a psychopath. He has this personality disorder. He's this personality. He's type A. He's type B. Okay. What are these things?
Labeling.
Yeah, they are labeling. Okay. Labeling is as like you are not seeing the person behind. Labels are just interpretations. They are not understanding of the client. Okay, you are interpreting. Okay, but not understanding. So it is important that always the person comes first. Okay, so in psychology, especially in the helping field, labels don't matter much. What matters the most is the person behind the label. So the person should be the first, label is next. Okay, you try to understand the person. Even though the labels are same, each person is unique. Each person's frame of reference is unique. Okay. Next thing is fact-centered rather than person-centered listening. Some counselors or early practitioners, they are more focused on finding so many facts. Okay, they keep on asking questions and probing. Like, those facts are of no use if they are not helpful to understand anything about the client. So what is important is to try to understand the person, the personality of the person. So instead of trying to like go over all the facts, you try to understand what is the theme. You might understand that this person has a particular kind of thinking style, maybe pessimistic thinking style. That is the theme that I observe across the different situations. So it's more, the importance is on identifying the themes, not on facts underlying all these things, all these experiences. So don't too much go into facts. That's not helpful. Next is sympathy. I think we have discussed about sympathy, sympathetic listening, right? See, sympathy is important. It has a place in human relationships, but its use is very limited when you are in a helping relationship. Okay. See, when you are sympathizing with someone, you are basically becoming his. sorry, is you are basically you are agreeing with the person. You are taking side. Okay, especially that you can see clearly in a couple therapy. If wife is complaining about husband or husband is complaining about wife, and you are sympathizing with them, then easily opposite person would see that you are actually aligning with the opposite partner. So sympathy is not helpful. Okay, sympathy basically indicates that you are taking sides. And if you express sympathy, what it does is it reinforces their self pity. They become more self pitiful. Okay, and it stops them from looking at managing their problems, moving towards managing their problems. They wallow themselves in pity. Okay, and then interrupting. Basically, when you are interrupting, when the client is saying something, it is usually because you plan to say something in the mind. You want to blurt it out before you forget. Okay. See, this interruption can be good, can be very bad as well. Okay. Like when you are cutting the client off in their like thoughts, in the mid of their thoughts, because you have something important to say, is very bad form of interruption. Just because you want something, you have something important to say. But it is different when you are interrupting a monologue with some gentle gesture, and or maybe you use comments such as, you have made several points, but I want to make sure that I have understood them. Okay, so can I summarize what you just said? I would like to summarize so that I want to be on the same plane with you. So that kind of interruption is helpful because there is a purpose behind it, and you're also doing it in a most respectful way. Okay, is it clear? So one possible reason why counselors engage in these kinds of shadow side of listening, because there is an assumption which is not examined, which there is an unexamined assumptions in the minds of a lot of counselors, that listening with an open mind means that I am actually approving what the client says. So the counselors believe that if I am listening with open mind, which means I am approving or I am agreeing to whatever the client says. So that is just an assumption. Okay. If you're listening with open mind, doesn't mean that you're approving or you're agreeing. You're trying to understand first. Okay. So because of that assumption, people engage in this kind of listening. They want to jump, and they are eager to correct everything. So that is not helpful.
Sir, can you repeat filtered listening?
So filtered listening is basically, we all have certain filters. Like for example, somebody comes, a boy of 11th standard comes and tells that I am gay. Okay. Immediately you would think that how can it be? Okay. That is, where is it coming from? Your own value systems, your own belief systems, your own
Beliefs.
lenses.
Okay.
Yeah. So the moment you start getting disturbed because of that, you're not completely present with the client.
Yes.
So we all have filters through which we understand the world. So nobody can be completely free of biases, but at least we need to be aware of our own biases so that we don't let those biases influence other people or being with clients. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this is just an unexamined assumption that listening with an open mind is the same as approving what the client is saying. No, you are not approving. You are actually there. You are listening with the open mind so that you can fully understand the client. Okay. So
Sir,
now we,
Excuse me, sir. Shadow side of listening, is it like a barrier to our relationship, means client and counselor?
It's very clear kada, ante it's obvious. Like if you're let's say interrupting, if you're saying these things, okay,
Yeah.
if you have this filtered way of understanding, probably the client feels that you're really not there for him. So it definitely affects the relationship. It
Yes.
definitely affects the counseling process.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. As counselors, okay, we not only listen, but we also respond, right? It's not just listening, but listening has to be communicated. That means you have to respond. So there are also set of skills which come under responding skills. Okay. So we respond by sharing what we understood. Uh, we check with them to make sure uh, that we have got, like, we understood them in a correct way. Okay. As a helper checks to make sure that they got things right. They probe to gain some more clarity. So probing is used for clarity. Okay. And you summarize the issue being, so that you can be more focused. Okay. Summarizing also helps the client to see the bigger picture. Okay. And you also challenge the client. So in challenging, again, there is response. You are responding to the client and challenge the client so that they can move past their inconsistencies. They can move past their blind spots. Okay. So in responding skills, probably today we are going to look at is empathic responding. Empathic responding. Okay. So there are three dimensions in empathic responding. Okay. There are three dimensions in empathic responding. That is perceptiveness, okay, then know-how, and communication. Basically, perceptiveness means accuracy of understanding, accuracy of understanding what the client is saying and what the client is feeling. Like for example, client did a blunder in client has done a blunder in his job. When the client came to your clinic, you say that you seem to be in so much of anger. Okay. What you're saying is you're incorrectly understanding what the client is feeling. Okay. He is feeling scared, but you're saying that you're feeling angry. Client might not even respond. Client might even get shocked. Okay. So it might stop him from opening up because you didn't understand correctly. So perceptiveness is accuracy of understanding. Okay. Then know how. Okay. It's not only you understand, you need to know how you are going to communicate your understanding. Okay. So you need to know how you are going to communicate, what words that you are going to use to communicate that. Okay. Next, last thing is you have the accuracy of understanding and you know how to communicate, but unless you communicate it, it doesn't matter. So actual communication is very, very important. So these three are the aspects of empathic responding. These are the dimensions of empathic responding. First, you need to accurately understand what the client is saying and feeling, and you need to know how you are going to communicate it, and then finally communicate it so that client understands that you understood them. Okay. So in the next slide, I have given an example so that we can see how the empathy works. Okay. You can read it by yourself. I will also read once, but you can read it by yourself so that you can process it. So here the client Rani is saying, I don't seem to get along with people. So this people is not clear for the counselor. So the counselor is asking, when you say people, like basically she's asking, what do you mean by people? Okay. Who are these people? Are these people at workplace, in your school or in your college? It's not clear. So she says, I mean my parents, they don't understand me. Okay. Then she wants some more information. What do you mean by that? What do you mean when you say that they don't understand you? Okay. Then Rani says, no, they think I want to stay in school and go to university. Well, I do, but they push me too much. They're always telling me what to do. Okay. Then counselor is saying, it is like they're pushing you in a certain direction and you are not sure if you want to go that way. Okay. And Rani says, exactly, which means counselor got it correctly, right? Counselor is able to understand what what Rani is going through correctly. That's an indication that you got it correctly. You are able to empathize correctly. Okay. Exactly. I'm confused about what I really want. Their constant pressure makes it hard. And that's what upsets you. Yes, a lot. It's affecting me, especially with everything happening at home. Okay. She came with the issue of, let's say, uh, uh, inability to, like, she's feeling overwhelmed with a lot of emotions and especially the anger and frustration. So in the process of exploration, this came out. Okay. There is probing, there is empathy. Okay. So now in the next slide, what I'm going to show is how we are going to show empathy, a basic model of showing empathy. Okay. Like, for example, maybe we will do a short exercise. Imagine that you are my counselor. I am 11th standard student or 12th standard student coming to you. Okay. These are the first words that I'm telling to you. Okay. Uh, Ma'am, sir, I have failed again. Uh, Even after trying third time, I again failed. I really don't know what to do with this chemistry exam. Uh, I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to pass it. So I don't know, really don't know what to do, whether I'll be able to finish my college or not. I feel useless. As a last resort, I came to you. Please help me. What will you say? Think about it. What will you say? It's okay to take time and process rather than hurriedly saying something.
What is the problem with that subject, particular
Okay.
subject?
Okay. Okay.
Is the teacher or
Yeah. Keep a note of your response. Yeah. Cheppandi Krishna garu.
First, we must say I am sorry to hear from you this thing, this result. And have you ever tried to understand why it is like that? When you are passing the other subjects, why you are failing in this subject? Do you attempted any analysis?
Yes, yes. Okay, so just make a note of that response. Anybody else?
Sir, I am telling you, don't worry. You can practice it. Then you can get the result good. I will tell you.
Okay, okay. So now I think these responses are enough to understand what empathy is here. Okay. Now, in the first response, what was told? Have you ever thought, why are you okay? So we are immediately getting into problem solving here, right?
yes, sir?
When you're saying you're getting into problem solving. Okay. Next, second, what did you say, Krishna Garu?
That's what I said, sir. Have you ever attempted or tried to understand?
You said I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, that sorry is sympathy, not empathy. Okay.
Can I give, sir? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, 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 please.
This is Sarita. So like as soon as he replies, then he said like, I know it pains. I can feel the pain. And let's sort out the problem where it is giving you towards to or what is the actual problem, we'll sort it out.
So, I
We
mean,
have to feel, we
this
have
is
to feel.
this is definitely somewhat better. But what I'm saying is, we are so quick to move towards problem solving in all
Yeah,
these
actually,
responses, right?
yes, sir. You should not jump into direct conclusion. I know that, but in short
Yeah.
of words, want to.
Yes. Yes. So basically, let's look at the next slide. Then again, we will attempt it. What do you say? Okay.
Yes, sir, sir.
Yeah. So next slide is this. Okay. So basically, you use this formula. You feel, name the correct emotion the correct client is feeling, emotions which are he directly talked about, or emotions that are underlying because of what experience. You just talk about the experience. Okay. So an example is given there. You feel unsure and anxious about the next step in your life and career. Okay. You feel, what is the feeling, then then the reason. Okay, you feel sad and are unhappy because the fight you had with your best friend. Okay, that is an example. Now use this principle and apply this to what we just discussed.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Hmm?
Can you please explain this one more? How can we relate this to the previous one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I'm so basically ability. What is empathy? We will read the definition. Ability to understand another person experience and communicating that understanding in terms of the intent, content and feelings of the clients. Okay, now I'll make an attempt to respond to that student. Okay, so I would say, you feel so frustrated and hopeless because even after trying 3 times you could not succeed the exam, and you're feeling hopeless about life too. Am I right? Did you get this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And tell me, what would it make to the client? What would it make the client feel?
He feels that his problem have conveyed to us.
So yes, so he feels that you exactly understood what he is going through inside. Okay, like it's like, uh, somebody fell down, like your son, your brother, or your daughter, whoever fell down and he's crying and uh, uh, is in so much of pain. You go and hit him and say, "I already told you don't go there." Okay, what we are ignoring is what the child is all, or what that person is already going through. Right? We are, maybe that is the solution. We will get to the solution later, but first address emotions. You say it must be very painful, right? I know it can be so painful. That's what matters to the person. We assume that the person doesn't know, doesn't have any knowledge. That's why he jumped from there or whatever it is. So we will not jump into those assumptions because, like, what is our understanding? The person has the capability to direct themselves. They can, like, once you provide right conditions, they can help themselves. You don't have to jump and give suggestions, right? So empathy is very, very important because you are first addressing the emotions. Once the emotions are addressed, once they calm down, then they are ready to listen to whatever the next step is. It moves from that stage to another stage. As long as they don't feel understood, probably they get stuck there and they won't be able to move to the next level. Are you getting this?
Yes.
yes.
So we don't quickly jump and ask questions. We are there with the clients. We don't take the responsibility to immediately solve the issue. Then you are not being being a counselor. You are trying to solve the problem for the clients. You are not being a counselor. You are being like just like another friend or father or brother or somebody else. You are not a professional counselor. So it's very, very important that you don't jump to solve the problem. You stay with the client's pace. You flow with what the client is saying. Definitely, there is a place for challenging. There is definitely a place for asking questions, gentle challenging, but not initially. That's why I told you this is the first statement that I told you. And if immediately we assume that he's not studying in the right way, and why did you pass other exams? Why didn't you pass these exams? So that is where basically we are assuming that there is something wrong there. Okay. So you can have your own assumptions at the back of your mind, but don't bring them immediately into the front. You can wait till the client moves from one phase to other phase. Is it clear? Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
the basic formula is this. You feel a certain emotion because this particular experience or behavior. Okay. Now, an example is my boss does not let me in on what happened. I feel angry about it. Somebody is saying that. Okay. So here the emotion is anger. Okay. The experience is boss is not letting them know what is happening. So you say you feel angry because your boss does not fill you on what is happening. So here, since we are learning it, we are learning the basic formula. We just repeated it. But in the statement I just mentioned about that boy, he didn't talk about he's feeling hopeless. He didn't say he's frustrated, right? Did he say he's frustrated? Did he use those words? He told you that even after trying 3 times, I again failed. I really don't know what to do. Okay. There is a emotion behind that word. What is the emotion? When you try something again and again in fail, you feel frustrated. He didn't say that he's frustrated, but I picked it up. You're getting my point? So then you're saying, then I don't know what to do. It's a kind of helpless situation. Okay. So then I am saying you're feeling frustrated and helpless, right? Because even after trying hard 3 times, you could not succeed in your chemistry exam. తర్వాత ఏం చెప్పినాడు? He told that I'm feeling useless. I don't know what to do in the life. So then we are also saying you are feeling hopeless about the life as well. You are getting my point?
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah.
Low self-esteem.
So that impression that you have, you keep that in your mind. Don't quickly convey to that you will bring to that awareness later. But initially we are not going to jump into that. See, whatever the questions that you all ask, I'm not saying they are wrong, but it's not the appropriate time to do that. Okay. The client has to be in the ready state. Okay. So now every time we may not be right, but we need to be very sensitive to how the client is responding to your empathetic statement. So sometimes it is suggested that even those empathetic statements, your understandings are to be put in a tentative way so that it gives the scope for the client to correct it. So you must be feeling angry. You might be feeling angry. So then the client say, like you ask the client, am I right? And the client say, no, I'm not feeling angry. You're getting my point. So it is good to keep those statements in a tentative way, not as, no, I know it for fact. So you can just look at this cycle where how, like, if your empathic response is accurate, uh, the client will give you verbal or non-verbal confirmation of accuracy. Okay, and the client will again talk a little bit more about that thing. Okay, and if it is not right, usually they are silent. They don't talk much about it. So if it is inaccurate, I mean, probably they stay silent. Okay, and if you give them a scope to correct it, they will correct it. Then again you restate it. Then again they give you affirmation. Then you go to the next round of dialogue. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So again, as we have seen the shadow side of listening, there is also shadow side for responding. So like one is the client is talking about very important thing, but you don't even respond. You are not even making a brief comment also. Something very emotional, something very painful you are talking, and you are just staying quiet. Okay, you're not communicating your understanding. You're not being there for the things. You're not even saying, mm-hmm. Even that you're not saying. You're not giving anything. There is no response. So, like for example, distracting questions. So for example, somebody is talking about somebody like deceiving them with money. Then you're asking them, "Are you sure there is no way to get the money back?" First, you address emotions. We don't immediately get into those things. Understand their world first. Okay. Then sometimes we use cliches. Okay. Like for example, they are talking about something that is happening in their company. Then say, nowadays every company is like that. That is called cliche. Nowadays every relationship is like that. Nowadays breakups are so common. Everybody dies. Ultimately, everybody has to die. So these are all called cliches. You're basically when we are saying that we are ignoring or we are not even trying to understand what the client is saying, or we are invalidating what the client is going through. Okay, like for example, interpretations. Okay, you might say, let's say somebody wants to take revenge, then you say, have you ever thought revenge will cure nothing and probably makes things worse? Revenge is a way of selling yourself short. Okay, so it is also kind of you're getting into an advice mode, peachy mode. You're interpreting. Okay, so probably all these things have a role, but you need to see the readiness. That's very, very important. Okay, then advice. The moment you give advice, you are taking a chance from the client to learn self responsibility. So advice giving robs clients of self responsibility. The moment you give advice, you're doing things for them. You're not allowing them to do things for themselves. But in some cultures, client expects advice giving. Okay, so even there, you need to give it in a way where you allow the client to make choice. Like I might say, if I were in your situation, probably I would be thinking about A, B, C, these options. I might not be sure which option I would take, but I might be thinking about these options. What do you think? You're getting my point? So, to the extent possible, you need to help them develop that agency, that they need to take charge. You cannot make decisions for them. Okay, they need to make choice. Then parroting is exactly repeating what they said. It doesn't mean anything. You need to understand the deeper meaning in that. Okay. Then sympathy and agreement. So basically, sympathy means you are agreeing. Okay, whereas empathy means understanding and acceptance of the person. Okay, sympathy is basically a form of colliding with the client. So sympathy is not helpful. These kind of responses are not helpful. Okay, and in the next slide, we have 5 minutes. I'll quickly show you. Probably we can discuss this. There are levels of empathy. So somebody is saying, I'm extremely troubled with a non-verbal behavior of eyes wide open. So now when you are detracting, okay, you are in a wonderful company, you should be happy. I mean, this is a very bad response. Subtract, you seem to be a bit concerned. He's saying he's extremely troubled. You are reducing it and you're saying you are a bit concerned. That is denying or invalidating what the client is feeling. Somebody is saying, I'm extremely angry. You say, you're a bit upset. He's saying extremely angry. You're saying you're a bit upset. That means you're subtracting. You're repeating exactly like it is. I mean, in these three things, repeating is much better than first two. You are extremely troubled. Okay, you're not reducing. At least that is much better. Then level 4 is picking up the deeper feeling. Okay, you seem to be profoundly anxious and worried about the future as to how to cope and appear, and you're appearing to be lost. Okay. Then level 5 is basically I would call it advanced empathy. Okay. It requires little bit more context and little bit more deeper feeling and meaning to understand that. Okay. So these are the different levels of empathy. Probably we can do one. I will give you 2 or 3 stimulus probably in the next class. We can work on those things and see whether we are able to get this. Okay. Is it clear till now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yes,
if you
sir.
have any, in the next 3 minutes, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Sir,
Shadow side of responding. I'm sorry. Is anyone asking? Can I continue?
Yeah, Krishna Garal is asking.
sir, suppose one client has moved from one counselor to another counselor after some time. Just like we change our doctors from general, then how things are there, sir? The same way of modeling or
Yeah. So it is again a new relationship, right? It's again a new relationship. Again, they need to build the relationship. Ultimately, what benefits the client is very, very important. Okay. You cannot start with other person at a different level unless you build the relationship. So the phases, the steps would be the same, but the client might be at a different level of understanding because previous counseling would have helped to some extent in developing awareness. But in terms of relationship, you start at the basic.
Okay, sir.
But what the client presents may be different because he might have resolved issues that he discussed with the other counselor, but when he goes to a different counselor, he might present different set of issues. But the relationship has to be built.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, somebody else was.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I'm Vijaya. Sir, do we have any practical thing like this, that if suppose one person is there and we are counseling, so just can we listen all such things, a sort of a budding type?
I
Because
didn't
see,
get
we
you.
are not experienced, right? And this is what completely we are going through the theoretical part. Yeah, like I want to attend some practical sessions. Like wherein probably you are a counselor, so when a client comes to you, how you will take them?
Yeah, so basically that is usually not easy in a private practice. Okay, private practice setup. Okay, in an institutional setup it might be easy, But in a private practice setup, it might not be easy because clients come here paying and they might want that privacy. If the client is willing, probably, like sometimes we allow observers to be there. Some people who take internship here, they sit with us
Okay.
once the client gives the consent. So that is okay.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you, sir.
In shadow side of responding, in that you said like client is like he's seeking advice from the counselor. So how do we know in that position that he's seeking advice from us by his words or by his gestures? Or
See,
do we know?
is like you will understand whether he is taking that passive role, expecting you to make decisions for him, right?
Okay, in the process of
Okay,
counseling,
yeah,
able to
yeah,
understand. Okay.
yeah. You have to observe that. You have to observe the way they talk about things. Okay, or they might seek reassurance again and again. Can I do this? Can I do this? Okay, as if you need to make the final decision for them. Okay, so you need to be very carefully observing that.
Okay. Maybe
Okay,
he's giving clue.
you might, yeah, you might steer discussion to saying, what are the options that we have? Okay, can we
Okay.
talk about both the options?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.